Hello everyone, my name is Steven Zapata. I'm a concept artist, illustrator, online art teacher, and former instructor at Art Center College of Design. I would like to introduce you to my new drawing course, Form from Imagination, a course designed to help you draw with confidence from your mind. Maybe you want to be a professional illustrator or designer, maybe you want to be a master with a pencil, or maybe you just want to be the best artist that you can be. Beautiful goals. But it's not always clear how to improve the work that you do from imagination. Over the past 6 months, I've taken all of the little eurekas, tips, and essential exercises that gave me confidence drawing from my mind and compiled them into a sequential course. We start with the absolute foundations, covering the scientific nature of light and shadow, how to hatch, how to create flat tones, how to render spheres and cubes, and step by step, we move through combined shapes, complex shapes, organic shapes. We cover how to simplify extremely complex subjects like the head into basic shapes so that you can handle them more easily from your head. We look at how to understand and treat details. And by the end of these 14 chapters with over 50 video lessons, you'll be ready to do complex designs from your mind with fidelity and energy. And all the demos are done in pencil on paper, so you can do all of the assignments even if you don't have a fancy digital art setup. But I also have demos, instructions, and modifications to the assignments for those who do want to do them digitally. Here's how it works. Go to formfromimagination.com and sign up for the course. Download the assignment book and start watching the lectures. Do the assignments at your own pace. Take your time with them and use this self-study to develop your patience. When you're done, post your assignments in the exclusive community hub, and I'll personally critique your work with drawovers, diagrams, and advice. I want you to know, this course is no joke just because it's online. It is challenging content, and it is more complete than it would be if I was teaching this class at an art college as I have before. If I was teaching this class in person at Art Center today, I would just play these videos in class, knowing full well that they're the most concise, focused, edited, step-by-step way to convey the material. So I'm serious when I say, this course isn't just a substitute for a college-level course, it's better than a college-level course. And you don't have to pay thousands of dollars per credit and wind up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So thank you for checking out the course, thank you for watching this and for your support, and thank you for drawing and making your artwork. The world needs it. I'll see you soon. What up? What up, 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 what up. Oh, let me get my microphone tested. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it looks all right. What's up? Hello to Ted, Lasse, Soko, Warrington, Fieselfeet, Senor Bob, Bedivere, Orpheus, Art Dad, and, of course, Partially Human. Hello, Jenny Craddock. How you doing? Hello, Sturvin. Hello, Sturvin. How do you do, Mr. Zarp, says Lassie. I'm good. I'm good. Good morning, Bedivere. Good morning, Drawkey. Constantinos says, Hola, Steven. ¿Cómo estás hoy? Estoy bien. Buenos días to Noah Birkland. Dix Azura says, hi, I'm new here. Welcome. Welcome, Dix. Welcome to the promised land of drawing. In this place, no drawing can go wrong. All the lines are beautiful and all the values are perfect. Hello to Jeremias. Yuri Ja. Mr. Goody. All others. Guap. Art Dad says, doing 3D work today, but excited to be here anyhow. Yeah, I mean, 3D work doesn't exclude you from partaking in the joys of Internet Faceman. Just because you're working in a 3D modeling program doesn't mean that you can't have a random internet person open on your other monitor. It's not against the rules, baby. The rules, baby. Mizubi says, first day of school after my exams. Mike, stopwatch running? Yes. Phi Gora says, hi, just found your YouTube today. What an auspicious day for you. A day that will live in your life forever in infamy. You won't forget this day. The gods of good luck have smiled upon you. Stephen, are you 3D or 2D? I exist as a 4-dimensional being. I have a 3-dimensional form and I transit through time. But to you, I'm 2D. Just like everything else in your field of vision. Soko says, currently cooking, but I promise to draw something later. I don't believe you. I'll need to see the drawings before I believe it. Prove it. What are we drawing today? A bunch of, I think, character faces right now. I've been doing a lot of development work over the past few days. All sorts of stuff like this for the project, some expression sheets for characters, model sheets, things like that. I think mostly what I need right now is faces. Let me look at my asset list here. Yeah, I think mostly faces. Hello to Alejandro. Dan Schwartz, Weasel Arts, Jaradolia. Mr. Goody. Don Schwartz says, can you stop streaming? I just finished drawing. Don't make me start again. I'm tired. Push through. No sleep for you today. More drawing is necessary. Do you have any digital art YouTube channels you can learn from, like Sam Does Art? I mean, there's tons. I mean, if you just type in digital art tips on YouTube, you'll get literally more videos than you could watch in a lifetime. But most people don't need digital art tips. Most people just need, what most artists are lacking is very, very foundational drawing knowledge, just how drawing works. Stuff that's completely separated from digital ideas or how the digital tools work or anything like that. It's like for 99% of artists out there who are sweating how to use a digital tool, their time would be better spent looking up basic drawing ideas. I mean, most people just don't do anything complicated enough in a digital program to really warrant tons of time spent looking up esoteric techniques. It's different if you're doing like 3D. 3D, there's definitely just a lot of like, all right, I want to do this very basic thing. Where is it in the menu? Need to constantly be opening the help and all of that. But if you're just trying to draw digitally, as long as you can activate the brush tool, as soon as the brush is open, you are just in a hand-to-hand encounter with your basic skills. And that will always be the case. Weird question. Do you animate? And if you read this, can you give a shout out to the Weasel Art channel? Shout out to the Weasel Art channel. I mean, I get that. I guess this counts, but I couldn't possibly endorse the Weasel Art channel without knowing what's on there. You know, that's very risky. I mean, you call it Weasel Art, but God, there's no way to be sure without me going to look at it that there's actually art on there. You might be peddling a lot of things that I completely disagree with, so an endorsement for the Weasel Art channel? Absolutely not. Saying it, letting the words dribble out of my mouth, already happened. I mean, merely by dint of necessity of the fact that I'm on a stream and I'm reading my chat. I mean, make of that what you will. Make of that what you will. But I cannot sit here and in good conscience endorse the Weasel Art channel. Now, as to do you animate? No, I don't. I've done it before. I had to do it in like high school and things like that, and did a couple short animations just for fun, you know, back in my mid-20s, like literally just run cycles and things like that. If I remember correctly, it was when I was just sitting on my hands at work back at the studio because there was nothing to do. So I was like, yeah, well, maybe I'll just animate something while I wait for a piece to get plopped onto my desk. I've always been a still picture kind of a guy. Don't get me wrong though, animation is magical. It's never been the kind of thing that works with my temperament. Chikage77 says, hi everyone. Partho Roy says, hey Stephen, love from India, love from New York. Been watching you since 3 years. I recently got a job as a concept artist. Your videos help a lot. I'm very happy to hear that. Congratulations on your concept art job. Congratulations, Partho Roy. You did it. You did it. You got that concept art job. Can you post a figure drawing tutorial, please? You know, a figure drawing tutorial. The closest thing that I have is I have a couple Gumroads called Transformational Anatomy. The second one, the leg, has, in the beginning, there's a chapter about how to practice from references. And that's me doing it. It's like 6 figure drawings. That's probably the closest thing, if you're interested. I don't think I have anything else other than that. And, you know, as much as I appreciate the request, I don't really do tutorials on this YouTube channel, which is kind of odd. I'm amazed that any of you are here, considering that the market for art YouTube is mostly based around tutorials, and there are basically none on my YouTube channel. I don't think there's a single one. I mean, there's a lot of recordings of me drawing, but I almost never talk about explicitly what I'm doing or how. So, you know, I'd love to run a figure drawing class at some point in the future, in person. I'd love to be one of those people who just has, you know, the garage studio, and I open it up to my local art friends. And every week we get a model and do figure drawing. So move near me, become my art friend, and in some indeterminate number of years, come join me in the garage studio for weekly life drawing. I really don't need to be drawing this guy. I need to be designing the other guy. Who's the other guy? Steven, should artists stay away from politics? It's up to you as an artist. There's lots of artists who are very interested in politics, and And I mean separate from the idea of like making propaganda or something like that. Like there are artists who are very political, and it's pretty clear they're not making propaganda. They're sort of expressing political feelings. I'm not a political artist, so I don't really know what the vernacular there would be. But yeah, that's just part of some artist practices, you know? That's why, you know, that's another one of the reasons that I hold by the position that there's really nothing absolute to be said about art. People do it for all sorts of different reasons, and one of them can be political. It's not the kind of artist life I would want to live, but if that's what you want to do, that's just a perfectly valid practice, to base your practice around politics. Let me rename this because I want this to be Priam Faces 2. Why do you not use Procreate? Says Weasel Arts. I do use Procreate. I've used Procreate a lot, but it's annoying to stream from. If Procreate would release a desktop version, that would be awesome. I would definitely give that a serious consideration for permanent integration. Can you share the references with the chat? We want to draw along. I am not using any reference right now. If I open up some reference, I'll let you know. What are your thoughts on chai latte or dark coffee / espresso? Chai lattes are good. Not enough caffeine for me. I'm a caffeine hound. Espresso's nice, especially if I've already had a goodly amount of coffee, but I want caffeine. It's nice to just get an espresso because, you know, less liquid, get less full, less dairy, just a shot of valuable, life-giving caffeine. Do you have figure drawing in your course? Informed from imagination? There's a couple chapters that focus on primary shapes for the figure, but I wouldn't say it's a figure drawing course, no. Figure drawing is really its own area of study, and Form from Imagination is focused on the rudiments of light and form that you need to understand the form that occurs on shapes, which is a very, it's abstract, that is abstracted beyond, is it a figure, is it a car, is it a washing machine? It's a very foundational question. Good Vibes says, hey, so happy to join the stream. Happy to have you, Good Vibes. Please send the good vibes. Please send the good vibes. We all need them. I need those good vibrations. I need those sweet sensations. Off the Florida Keys, there's a place called Kokomo. That's where we wanna go to get away from it all. Stop asking questions about art. Let me sing. Ba, 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 ba. Our bodies in the sand. Tropical drink melting in your hand. All right, easy with the art questions. All right, please focus on singing. Please focus on my Grammy-winning song. I won quite a few Grammys last night. It was a big deal. You don't need to go research it. I can just give you the lowdown here. Album of the year, record of the year, they're different. If you don't understand why, you're fucking ignorant. Song of the year, best live performance of the year, best tribute performance of the year. I also won the Grammy for best Grammy-winning song, which was, of course, for my song called Grammy-winning song. So, cleaned up last night, made a lot of money, a lot of new fans. So you guys are lucky I'm even here drawing, because I probably should be in the studio working on my next Grammy-winning album and next Grammy-winning song. Good Vibe says, have you seen PewDiePie's, PewDiePie's? Who is that? I don't know who that is. Drawing progress. And if so, what do you think? Yes, I saw PewDiePie's videos. Good progress, I thought. Very good progress. It's very nice to see somebody sort of dive into a new skill and have good success and good returns right away. That's just, that's nice. Because, you know, that ain't always how it goes. It's a struggle for a lot of people. So whenever you see it go nice and fun and someone's riding that fun wave, it's like, God bless them. If only you could bottle that and give it to everybody, you know? That's some of the nicest happiness that's available in life. Hi, Steven, says Miles Bloomfield. Hope to one day work as an artist, but I'm not sure what career I should choose. I just like drawing and painting fantasy and realistic stuff and not sure how to translate that into career. It's a very complicated question because I don't know you personally, I don't know your trajectory in life, I don't know what your monetary and financial needs are, but, and this may be an unsatisfying answer, it's going to be very personal, and I think at this point you should be extremely cautious about it. There's basically in my industry, illustration, concept art, exactly what you mentioned. At this point, there is a lot of people in this industry who went into it because the primary thing in their life was that they wanted to keep drawing and painting. They're not rich people, they don't come from affluent backgrounds, they're not independently wealthy, and so they needed to find a way to integrate that into their life such that they could keep doing it while making money and supporting themselves. Concept art, illustration, things like that is one of the few jobs that still incentivizes strong drawing ability. They pick that because it synthesizes with things. I think the industry is on the cusp of changing a lot. So if you're doing it for those reasons, I would go very slowly, very thoughtfully, and foreground the fact that you just want to keep drawing and painting, right? And be very skeptical of the idea that you need to segue that into a career, and that career needs to like perfectly support that or anything like that. As someone who, for me, I would rather be dead than not be drawing all day, every day. If you're like me, then yeah, you're gonna make it a career no matter what, and you're gonna rush headlong towards it. But just be cautious about it. Just be cautious about it. Because industries change, markets change. And if you put all of your eggs into that basket and then the market changes and the market's like, maybe I don't need to draw or paint so much, then you're gonna be like, shit, why am I here again? It happens to a lot of people who go into commercial work for those reasons, you know? The people who make it in the commercial industries in a really long-term sense are usually the ones who, yeah, they like drawing and painting, that is a big deal for them, but they also really love the industries. They also really love whatever industry they're in, video games, movies, and there's a part of them that's like the final product is more important and they can sort of have a little give on the drawing and painting part, you know? What about colored pencils? I don't really do colored pencil work. I do use colored pencils to draw. Like, here's a stack of figure drawings that I keep on the ground next to my desk. Those are, I mean, you can barely see them, I'm sorry, but hopefully you can just barely make out that those are red colored pencil. They're very nice drawing materials, but I don't do like full color pencil illustrations in the traditional sense, but they're beautiful tools. I've never even tried to do like a full color colored pencil illustration. I've seen a lot of them and they're just not the look I'm interested in, but they're great drawing tools. I like the Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencils. I think those are oil-based instead of wax-based, and those go down nicer for me. This stack of figure drawings is from, that's not all of it. There's a couple more down there, but this is from, since when? Last Thursday? Something like that. Front and back of every page is full. You drawn enough? You drawn enough? Hi, Steven, did you have a haircut? No, I have not cut it yet. It's getting it's getting unruly. But it's a nice hat for now. I'll cut it once it warms up a bit. Do you have any recommendations for sketchbooks? I only use the Moleskine sketchbooks. It's just personal preference. There's plenty of good ones out there, but in general, I loathe cheap paper, like sketch paper, like anything that's labeled. A lot of things are labeled sketchbooks just because they're bound. But like the Moleskine sketchbooks are called sketchbooks, but their paper is better than a lot of single sheet stock you will find. But like a Strathmore Canson, like sketch paper pad, like I wouldn't do anything but short figure drawings on paper like that. I really hate cheap, thin stock. I would prefer to use good stock for just about everything. Whoa, XXX, continuing to subsidize the channel, my career, and my rent with 100 euros. Thank you so much, XXX. You're the best, baby. XXX, floating in like a beautiful butterfly, dropping 100 euros to flex on the stream. He wants me to sing. Thanks, XXX. It's very sweet of you. And yes, we're all wishing you luck. Luck for what? You ain't got to worry about that. Look, someone like XXX, whatever luck they need, they're going to get it. Hey, Steven, do you think there's a difference between seeing art as a craft that involves skill versus art as a mode of expression? Do you think there's a difference between seeing art as a craft that involves skill versus art as a mode of expression? Yeah, I mean, it comes back to, I think, if I'm understanding your question right, all questions like this, at least when you ask me or someone who holds my position, it's going to come back to that core that, like, there is no structure to art. You know, there just isn't. For one person, they're going to say art is skill. You know, people will go so far as to say art is science. Art is a science, you know, and there's objective ways to make good art, quote unquote. I don't agree with those people, but those people will have a knife fight with me to defend their viewpoint. And then there's people completely on the other side of that argument that will also whip out a knife and have a knife fight about it. As far as I can tell, the only reason that that's possible is because there is no true objective answer, or else we all would have sorted into the correct camp by now. Art is a, if everybody in the chat right now gave a definition of art, no two people would repeat the same answer. Nobody can agree, and everybody's affected by art differently. Everybody's practice is different. So for some people, it's all about the skill, and for other people, it's all about expression. And ne'er the twain shall meet. You know, and you just got to find out, well, what is it to you? Hey, Steven, just wondering what size canvas are you using for Photoshop? This one's pretty small, I think. Yeah, this is 2800 across. I'm just trying to keep my brushes fast. Damn, singing lessons when? You just got one. You just got one. Penka says, your stream is like going to an art doctor, man. I'm glad. I'm glad. Saman Kucher says, art is to draw cats. Good Vibe says, I know that you're a musical mastermind. It's very true. That's absolutely true. That's objectively true. There is an objective structure to music, and I have mastered it. So I can recommend that you check out Masayoshi Takanaka, just for fun. He is a Japanese guitarist and composer. Just fun music. Thank you for the recommendation. Hello, bro. New A from India. Hello, Viru. What up from New York? What up from Nueva York? Nueva York. The newest of Yorks. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go to the restroom. Give me 1 second. Stevie back. Stevie back. Viewer says, I need some suggestions as an artist. I need to know the medium to get some works. I am a paper sketch artist. What suggestions could you give me to grow on social media and get various works? If by works you mean commercial work, For commercial work, if you're a paper sketch artist, it's hard when the requirements are specifically commercial, because you know, markets are always changing. And if you're trying to work for studios or firms and things like that, then sort of what they're wanting and looking for is really different from studio to studio, from firm to firm. If you're specifically focused on sketching, drawing fast, storyboards are always needed in tons of industries. You know, obviously animation, movies, TV, things like that, but advertising uses storyboards too. And if you can get in there with storyboards, they're quite regular work. It's all sketching. Yeah, you have a lot of flexibility. You can go to a lot of different places with it. And I think storyboarding is one of the ones where if you work mostly on paper, that translates pretty easily. Like I don't think storyboard, the people who are hiring for storyboards, like art directors and stuff like that, you can show them on paper that you can do the job, and they'll be less likely to be like, right, but can you do it on a Cintiq, you know? Which is a consideration with other things, you know, like you may be a fantastic oil painter, but if you're trying to parlay that into a lot of types of commercial work, there will be a barrier because people can tell you can paint your ass off, but they're like, yeah, but this is a commercial job and I need him to know how to use Photoshop because we need to do corrections and versions and edits, right? So there is a barrier there where they're like, right, but I can't see if they know how to do it in Photoshop. Are they really the right person for the gig? But storyboards are just so heavily sketch inclined that I think direct pencil work translates more. But I'm also not a storyboard artist, so I might be wrong about that. There might be way more technical limitations than I am aware of. And there's certainly craft limitations. Like I think to be a true storyboard artist, a storyboard artist at all, you do need to speak the language of like cameras and lenses and how an animated thing moves. So you need to show that, you know, you can't just sketch well. Thoughts about state of art in journalism nowadays? I don't know what you mean by that. You mean like editorial illustrations for news articles and things like that? If that's what you mean, it's still there. It's pretty limited. As far as I know, most of the people who do that, they just do that through an agent. You don't really like go hunting for that work yourself. You get an agent who has relationships with periodicals and magazines and newspapers and things like that. And they place you with the jobs. Because they're very fast turnaround as far as I understand. And yeah, you just want someone else to do all the negotiating and relationship building and scheduling and all of that. Why is this gray? Hello, Gabuda. Steven, would you ever do bird watching? Yeah. I've watched a few birds. Don Schwartz says, about the Nightshade All Night stream, are you going to accept cute anime girl drawings? My friend asked me to ask you that. Yeah, I'll accept that. I mean, whatever anybody sends, as long as it's not like inappropriate, obviously, or anything like that, or something that I can't show on YouTube, I'll take a look at it. I mean, you know, I don't know how many people are gonna show up and play along, but if it's a lot of people, you know, I'll really just be giving comments and reactions on most of the stuff people submit, and I'll be trying to go relatively fast. So, you know, I can definitely tolerate a cute anime girl for that long. It's funny how even a little joke like that, there's a considerable amount of people watching right now who I, for real, just infuriated. I've been around long enough to know that people are genuinely, truly, heartfelt offended, mad, psychologically damaged by the fact that my personal taste does not incline towards cute anime girls. We live in a weird world. I wish I could stop smiling at their anger, but very serious. Let's try a different. I kind of already like that for this character, but let's try a couple different facial structures just in case. That blush is very ooh-woo though. Yeah, because these characters are in a very cold environment, so I'm trying to imply you know, they're in an Arctic environment. Sun-beaten, burnt by the snow, freezing. So to me, that always creates a dark, ruddy complexion in that middle area. How many hours a day did you spend drawing at your peak? I'm at my peak right now, baby. I am peaking. I'm in the middle of a peak experience. I'm in one long, protracted 15-year peak. And it probably won't be done for another 40, 50 years. Don't get caught up on numbers. And I refuse to say one because no matter how much I implore you to use your wisdom and discernment, if I just say a number, it's going to corrupt some people's minds, whether it's yours or somebody else who's listening. You know, objective standards are so spare in art that if I just say a number, someone out there will be like, that's it. That's exactly the amount of hours that I have to do. And it'll just knock them off course for a week. It's very dangerous because if you foreground the numbers until you have much more experience, you inevitably stop paying close enough attention to the art and what you're doing. You just want to put the numbers up on the clock so that you can feel gritty and like you're on track, but you need to pay attention to what you're doing. So if you're trying to pay attention, you got to be kind of healthy and rested. You can't be burnt out. Hello, do you know any anatomy book, preferably in paper version, usable for educational purposes? Have you ever used one? I've used a bunch. I usually recommend, there's different ones that are good for different things. So I usually recommend Strength Training Anatomy by Frank Delavier for, I think that's his last name, Delavier. Someone in the chat can link it or write it correctly. But that one is the best for variety of diagrams. Nothing else comes even close. You know, there's excellent anatomical manuals like Paul Reicher's Artistic Anatomy, which I'd also recommend, but Artistic Anatomy probably has less than 20 actual anatomy diagrams in it. They're very complete and very precise and very beautiful, but they're just straight up and down standing model, few looking at the inside and outside of a couple things, medial and lateral, but there's very few. Strength Training Anatomy has literally hundreds of basically complete anatomical diagrams, or at least half body, you know, full anatomy of the legs, full anatomy of the upper body, and in all sorts of different poses that none of the other ones even actually really try to show. So I would recommend that book to almost anybody who does figure work, because when you find a problem, you can flip through the book and usually you can find something that is similar to the pose that you're drawing and see how the muscles roughly lay out there. It's an excellent, excellent book for that. But that book, it's called Strength Training Anatomy. It's a workout book. That guy happens to be an artist and a very good anatomist, but it's not about drawing. It is not a drawing manual. It doesn't teach anything about drawing. It doesn't mention drawing. It is only concerned with exercise. So if you want good artist training for anatomy, then again, it depends sort of where you are in the journey. I think for draftsmanship, for anatomical draftsmanship, something like Ray Bustos's book would be good. Bridgman is too confusing for most people. Michael Hampton does good anatomy books. One of the super Ani people, I think his name is Stonehouse, has a new anatomy book out. I haven't looked at any of those, by the way. You know, I've seen flip throughs on YouTube and they look comprehensive. The Stephen Rogers Peck anatomy book is pretty good. Yeah, the rare thing is good draftsmanship teaching for anatomy. Yeah, I'd probably, Ray Bustos in any capacity, he's very focused on that. So you could take one of his online classes or get his book. And Michael Hampton is also good for that. Hello, Chris Owl. Hello, Steven. Have you played Baldur's Gate 3? If you have, what do you think of Gale? I have played Baldur's Gate 3. I don't think much about Gale because I've only played one file, and Gale, I picked Gale as the origin character, so I haven't. When you pick a character as the player's character, you don't hear any of their dialogue, any of that. So I have no idea what Gale is like, right? He's just a vacuous mask for me in the game. So no opinion on Gale. Viewer edit says, so what do you do for your leaving? Art? I assume you mean living. Yeah, I do art for a living. In all sorts of ways. Commercial art, teaching, doing stuff like this on YouTube, but my whole life's always been art. Yeah. Count Estradivarius says, hi, Stephen, could you share an optimist thought for struggling artists in these uncertain times? The dread of a dark future hunts my present days. There's always a good reason to keep making art. Yeah, I know it's very, I'm troubled by the current times. I'm troubled by the prospects for art and specifically, you know, in a narrower viewpoint for like my little industry that I've been in for many years at this point. I definitely worry for it. Its health, its vitality and all that. But even in just a broader sense, I worry for creativity. But yeah, I really don't think there's ever a good reason to give up on art if you are a creative person. I think the idea that you could sort of squash down the creative impulse is a little short-sighted, and it probably wouldn't work. You know, if you've really got a creative drive, I think it'll be with you always. And if you try to turn away from it, you're just gonna spiritually constipate yourself and it'll manifest in other damaging ways. Concerns like, is this the safest or smartest career to go into? It's art. Was it ever safe or smart or anything like that? No, if you had illusions, or if anyone else out there has illusions like that, well, you've got to see them for what they are, illusions. Like our art was never, in any capacity, right? You know, You know, if you're looking at being a concept artist or an illustrator, a lot of airs have been put on over the years that just like, oh, this is a job, this is a normal job, and it's just like another job and things like that. And it's like, yeah, it's a little bit more jobby than a lot of other ways you can do art in your life, but it's still art. It's always like, it's a personal miracle anytime anybody can make a living out of art. It's very strange, very unreliable, and difficult to pin down or say anything absolute about. But once you get that out of the way, if you're not tied up with that, right? If you're not starving to death because you're banking everything on art, you should never quit. I really don't think you should quit. I don't think there's any good reason to stop. It's gonna make you crazy. It's gonna damage you psychologically and spiritually. Maybe you've banked too hard into it and you need to reduce the amount you do it, emphasize other things in your life for a little bit. You know, having friends, having a social life, you know, being part of a community, things like that. But I would never say excise art completely from your life while you do those things. I just don't think that's realistic or useful. You love art for a reason, and I think that it takes care of something deeply primordial inside of the human being. I think it goes beyond cultural and societal contingencies. I think that it has a deep mystical aspect. You know, people do art for very different reasons, but I think that you're tapping into the same process no matter why you do it, right? So me personally, you know, I do art for one reason. I do it to reach ecstatic communion with God, and that's really the only deep reason that I do it. And then I let, you know, everything else floats on top of that. I make money with it so that I can continue to spend a huge amount of time in ecstatic union with God. But even if you thought you were just doing it for money or just doing it for clout or just doing it for recognition or something like that, I think that is sort of a game that you play with yourself, and deep down a process that you cannot explain or put into words or account for is actually what's coming. And then it's sort of just taking care of you on that emergent level that you find most urgent or interesting. You know, you're just very lucky that that primordial process is allowing you to make money or get some clout or have some social status or something like that. And that's just not something to be fucked with ever, really, I don't think. I think it's very dangerous to allow what's going on in culture or the markets or society. I think it's very dangerous to let that get in the way of you exercising that. I think that will only lead to disaster in a person's life. So yeah, I don't think it's too much to say that making art is existential for most people who do it. So keep doing it. Don't suppress something that existential. I often have a problem where anatomy overtakes the gesture and it becomes stiff, and had not found an easy solution for it so far. Usually, well, I mean, it's just mileage. Eventually you'll figure it out if you keep doing it. But the pocket solution is to go way too far with your gesture. Because yeah, it's a foundational rule of drawing that it's going to deaden as you go. So if your gestures are starting like this, and then you find that when you add the muscles and the anatomy and all of this, it goes dead, then up it by 50% how aggressive your gesture is. And then that way that'll sort of compensate a bit. When you add the anatomy. So you'll wind up, you know, you will have over-corrected at the beginning, and then when you stiffen it, you'll still wind up like 25% more energetic than you would have over here. So just push your gestures even further than you normally feel comfortable with. It's like a shoot for the moon so you land amongst the stars kind of a thing. Is it the other way around? Because the stars are further away. Shit, what's that saying? Is it the other way around? Is it shoot for the stars so that you land on the moon? Because the moon's closer. I'm very confused about that saying right now. Have you ever made pixel art, Steven? Yeah, when I was a kid. That was like the first digital stuff I ever did when I was like probably 9 or 10. I was in MS Paint making little Mega Man sprites in MS Paint. Shady on Fire says, hey, Steven, missed the streams. They're still here, baby. We're gonna do 2 more this week. We got Nightshade All Night on Thursday, and tomorrow I'm gonna have Joe over and we're gonna do a test stream for the setup for Nightshade All Night. And hopefully we can do that for a bit and it'll just be a regular stream. If we run out of time, we do need to test it, so we'll be live at some point, but it might be a short one. So we got more streams coming this week. Thank you, Jim Wool. Giardolia says, yeah, art is pretty damn magical. It really is. It's very magical. iNocturne says, Steven, I hope you never retire from art. I won't. I just can't. I don't foresee that happening. I can imagine situations where I might retire from doing art publicly. I could see crazy shit happening in life that would incentivize that. But even if you guys weren't, if I wasn't doing it on YouTube and things like that, I would still be doing art at or near the amount that I do it today. I just don't, drawing a ton has been a part of my life forever. Like I don't remember a period in my life where I wasn't doing that. So I just don't know. I don't know how it would happen. I really don't. Ayub says, hello, Steven. I've been doing characters from imagination for a while now, but coming back to doing figures from reference, it became harder than usual. Do you know why that happens? Well, 2 reasons. One, if you've been spending any considerable amount of time drawing and getting better, then your taste is improving while you're doing that. So it feels like you maybe took a step backwards on figure from reference or it's harder to do, but in reality, it's that your eye is sharper and you have higher expectations from yourself. So that's natural and a good thing because that means in the long run, you're gonna wind up better. So I wouldn't worry about that. The other thing is the principle of specificity, which is that you're only ever practicing the thing you're doing, right? Which is why I always tell people on here to never go through a period in your career where you're not doing the kinds of pictures you wanna be doing, right? Because you need to rehearse them. You need to rehearse them. Even when you're not great, even when you're a beginner, even when they come out bad, you need to rehearse your kinds of pictures if you want them to be great at some point. So don't waste years putting in 8 hours a day drawing pictures that aren't your pictures, right? Yeah, we need to do some skill building and things like that, but you're always supposed to be doing your pictures. So same thing goes for that. It's like you maybe did take a couple steps back on figures from reference because your brain was getting aligned with doing characters from imagination. That's just what happens. You're only ever practicing the thing you're practicing. So it's not weird that you built up some rust or you're just misaligned thinking-wise with what it takes to draw from reference. The big one there is that if you're drawing characters purely from imagination, you're probably looking down at your drawing the whole time and your brain gets very used to that and needs to sort of get used to, again, the process of looking at your drawing and then looking at the reference, looking at your drawing, looking at the reference, which feels like a small thing when you say it, but I actually think mechanically, doing that kind of attention switching often in the process of drawing is actually very different from just looking at one picture with unbroken focus for extended periods of time and just asking what does this picture need rather than how does this picture compare to another visual that I'm seeing. I think they're actually very mechanically different. Oops. Hello, Katria. Good to see you. Hey, Steven, do you have a trick to not feeling guilty when taking a few days off from practice? No, there's no trick. Just don't. What does the guilt do for you? You know, what does it serve? It doesn't do anything. You know, you already know conceptually that, you know, maybe you wish you'd invested your time differently or managed your energy better or something like that. Like every useful thing in that situation of not drawing as much as you wish you had can be parsed without guilt. The guilt is useless. I mean, there's no trick to it. And I mean, don't be so hard on yourself, you know? Everybody needs breaks. Have you ever tried ZBrush, and what are your thoughts on sculpting in general? I have tried ZBrush. I like sculpting. I'm no good at it, but I do like it. I've been doing a lot of, I think VR sculpting is great. I think if anybody out there who has a VR headset available to them, if you haven't tried doing VR sculpting, I'd recommend it to almost anybody. I've been using Adobe Medium lately. It's a great tool, but it's also just fun, which I think is super important. It's a very fun tool. That's the first VR sculpting app I've used that feels like it really retains my hand, you know? Like the personal way that I make shapes. That's a very rare thing for a tool to capture when you're sort of switching mediums and thought systems completely. I don't think they take depth into account with the shoot for the moon, land on the stars thing. Yeah, when you think about it, that saying's backwards, isn't it? It's all turned around. Yankee says, hi, Steven. Hope your trip was good. Yeah, it was good. Good to see my family. Did you see PewDiePie's drawing videos? I did. I'm very happy for PewDiePie. Good for him. Any reference suggestions for figure drawing? Maybe like other than Michelangelo and Raphael? Oh, I mean, there's so many great figure artists out there. If you're looking for old-timey stuff, just because you mentioned Michelangelo and Raphael, Pierre-Paul Proudhon, who was an academic, I think he was a French academic, great for studying form and values. Bouguereau's figure drawings are great. You know, there's not that many online, but you can find quite a few of them, and they're awesome. Sargent's figure drawings are great. For like portraiture and like very delicate value control, Eng. What's Eng's full name? Jean-Dominique Eng, I-N-G-R-E-S. Eng's figure drawings, his portraits, are an education and how to balance form, value, structure, character. Really, really awesome. They're beautiful, delicate little pencil drawings. His paintings are cool too, but I've always loved those portraits that he did. I've copied many of them, dozens. And I've had the good luck to copy several of the originals in person at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Yeah, Eng's really good. UF commentator says, you skipped my question. Is there any good artist whose work is full of MMA poses and studies, you know? that has to be one of the most specific questions I've ever gotten on here. An artist whose work is full of MMA poses from UFC commentator. I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat can help you with that. No, I can't name off the top of my head an artist whose emphasis is MMA fighters. I'm sure there's got to be a few. There's got to be a few huge fans who do that, but I can't name any off the top of my head. Shadow Shogun says, have you thought at least one time in your life that I could have progressed faster? What can you say about that type of thought? I mean, I've of course thought it in the past. I've been lucky enough. I've been lucky enough that huge swaths of valuable years for me were spent working and living in a way where it was like, here's the thing, you can always beat up on yourself, right? Like, even if you're doing great, if you have a guilt complex ingrained in yourself, it doesn't matter how good you're doing, you can always say it still wasn't enough, asshole, because you can always imagine having done 1% more, right? So that's irrational, that's useless. But that said, I've been lucky enough that, yeah, big periods of years, of very valuable years, I've been lucky enough to spend basically living and working in a way where I couldn't possibly feel guilty about that. At least not from the drawing side. Like, within all reason, it's like I couldn't have possibly worked harder. I was killing myself. I think I worked too hard. I almost killed myself several times. I could have hurt myself or others. I made myself crazy. You know, I put myself through intense psychological and mental problems that permanently scarred me and things like that. I think it was too much. So I don't, that kind of has helped mitigate those thoughts for a lot of my life, but they could have reemerged in later parts of my life where I haven't been living like that. But fortunately, I just don't, due to other philosophical positions that I truly believe, that thought isn't cogent to me. I could have progressed faster. What does that mean? If I rewound the universe and went back to exactly the same mental state, world state, energy state, relationship state, emotional state, everything was the same. At some juncture there, I would have worked different, worked more. It doesn't map for me. I personally, and again, like I said, this is getting tied up with lots of non-art related philosophical positions, but they cross paths with my artistic practice. I truly feel, this is not lip service, I actually feel that I would have done the exact same thing if I rewound the universe. So that mitigates regret. I don't waste my time worrying about stuff like that. I just look forward. You know, if your philosophy somehow makes it real that you should sit around ruminating on your past failures and thus gives regret some sort of actionable urgency, I don't know what to say about it. I mean, I'm not gonna be able to help someone with that without dismantling their base philosophical positions to some point. I will say this, if your mind is flooded with negative thoughts, a good starting point is to consciously practice replacing them with positive thoughts as much as possible. And that for a lot of people that takes, one of the most common buzzwordy ways to do it these days is to do a gratitude journal, right? So it's not a regular reflective diary, right, where there can be anything in there. In a gratitude journal, you're only allowed to write nice things. So just do that for 5 minutes a day and force yourself to write nice things unbroken for 5 minutes. If you're used to going whole days without having a positive thought, that will sort of start shoehorning them in there. If you don't like journaling or you cringe away from it or something like that, another common way is to do meditation. So not all forms of meditation are, sort of highly mystical, structureless spaces. A lot of forms of meditation are highly structured, and a lot of those have to do with thinking positive thoughts, not necessarily about yourself. A positive thought counts if it's about another person. So you can sit there and do meta meditation just for 10 minutes a day. Just think of somebody that you love and just wish them well for 10 minutes. If that makes you cringe, I think that says a lot about the state of your mind and the state of the culture that would condition your mind to cringe away from thinking nice things about somebody for 10 minutes. That's not good. And if you're inclined to resist the idea of thinking nice things about somebody that you love, I said somebody you love, by the way, if you're inclined to not like the idea of thinking nice things about somebody you love for just 10 minutes, 5 minutes, yeah, I'm not surprised that your mind would regularly turn against you at every opportunity that it has. Steve Houston, but more boxers rather than MMA. Yeah, UFC commentator, that might be interesting. Might want to look into Steve Houston. He does a lot of fighter-based work, but I think you probably are looking for specifically UFC or MMA, right? Ayub says, since I want to become a character designer, my daily practice should be to do character designs. Can someone's sense of design evolve just by doing that, or does he have to keep something in mind? You can literally just do character designs. And a lot of the greatest character designers out there, I mean, it's not gonna be all of them, but the proof is in the pudding. A lot of them, all they really do is character designs, and that's all they really did. And if you just accept that, instead of thinking there needs to be some sort of weird training regimen that includes everything else, if you get that out of your head, doesn't it kind of make sense that the people who are the best in the world did only that for a really long time? It's not like they're not living a normal life. They're still going to museums and seeing other work that challenges them. They're still seeing other work online. They're still walking through the world and seeing what a real tree looks like, what a real car looks like. It's not like there is no way to completely narrow the scope of what you're doing. You're still taking in things from the world. So yeah, you can just do that. It's uncomfortable, right? A lot of people just can't do it because it feels uncomfortable, because they can't stand the sense of failure. So they feel like they should be doing something different. But if you just accept the sense of failure, yeah, you could just do that. It's totally viable. Do you want to just do that is a different question, right? Like, I do a lot of things, but not because I think that they are necessary or that they will help every other thing. I do them because they're fun, right? But you can just do the one thing you want to do and ignore everything else, and yeah, you will get better at it. Yankee says, how much design for a project such as your comic do you typically do before execution? Well, I've never done something like this before, so I can't give a real answer to that. I can say I'm doing a ton. It depends on the kind of project. If you're working on a job at a studio or something, prep is easier and design is easier and faster because, well, even if you don't have other artists helping you specifically on the deliverables, you have an art director who's doing research and guiding you and things like that. So on jobs, it tends to be easier, a bit shorter because the work is sort of spread out. And it also depends on the kind of project. So if you are doing something that is completely your own from scratch, that is to say you're writing it, you need to write it, and that's part of the design, and that takes forever. So it's just a really long time. I mean, this project I've been working on since, I think it was August of last year, maybe July of last year. So it's been a long time. And most of the focus in that time has been on the writing. It just depends. It depends on the project. Some projects are bigger, some projects are smaller. I will say this, take your time. Most people rush, and most people think things go fast. Most big projects should be thought of on the order of years, I think is realistic for a big project. Medium, small, it can be shorter. But most big projects should be thought of in the order of years. Most people can't make a portfolio in a year. You know, that's the common problem I have with people who come looking for advice on becoming a concept artist or illustrator or something like that. They think it's way easier to make a portfolio than it actually is. Even most if we say a portfolio, let's say from scratch, right? Like, it's hard to get a job if you've got a portfolio of less than 10 images. So if a portfolio is, let's say, 10 to 12 images that are your best work, even most professionals cannot reliably turn over their portfolio, that is to say, make 10 new good images that they feel proud of. Even most professionals cannot do that in a year. So you should really expand the timelines and take your time on things. Dome says, I want to do long form comics, but I hate writing. That's when you get a partner. That means it's time for teamwork. Shadow Shogun says, I just rewatched your video about can you work on your art harder? And yeah, I still rewatch to remind myself that I don't need to be so harsh on myself. Thank you again for the answer. Yeah, do not be so hard on yourself. I still like that video. I think that's a good one. Merlex says, based on what you've said, as an artist, should I develop my own philosophy of art, life, XYZ to become better? I mean, that's what artists have always been. I mean, this current vibe that in our little corner of art, that we're just illustrators, just concept artists, just designers, things like that. It's very precious, very cute, and very useful. You know, it has some utility for practical purposes. You know, it helps us be more professional, separate our egos from the job, take criticism, grind out things, slot ourselves into the fucking zeitgeist of productivity and all of that. It's very cute. It's very cute, but it's not true. It just isn't true. It's just a useful game that we are playing with ourselves. And it's not why almost anybody who is a professional artist got into it or has that interest. You know, we're just not that. You know, the deeper down, art is what it's always been. You know, even if we pretend, art is the weird, gross, bohemian thing that that non-artists think it is, right? They've got it right. You know, we hypnotize ourselves into thinking, oh, I'm very gritty, you know, I'm a designer, and, you know, this is my day rate and all this is like very nice, very nice. But the general populace has us pegged. The outside view is correct. We are very emotional, very sensitive, weird little creatures. And that is the real deal. So yeah, you're inevitably going to make your own philosophy. Your art is going to spill out into everything else, your life, your viewpoints, things like that. And that is what all artists have always done. That's what all the art that's hanging in museums is about. It's about people's philosophies, them pushing against things, going with other things. It's just inevitable. So if you have any interest in that, I would just start running that process earlier rather than later. Artiz Artifact says, hey, Steven, thanks for the stream. If you had aphantasia, no mind's eye, do you think you would still pursue art, or would you try to find a way to work around it? I think there's lots of artists who have aphantasia. I don't personally visualize much while I draw. I just react stroke to what's on the page. I obviously can't talk about I can't speak to a counterfactual, right? Because I don't actually have aphantasia, but just based on my current understanding and experience of how I draw, I could draw, my process would be the same if I had aphantasia. I never sit there and visualize while I'm drawing. I really only visualize when I'm in the car. You know, when an idea strikes me in the car and I'm like trying to, like piece it out in my head. The rest of the time, 99% of the time, it's just, that's a stroke, that's a stroke, that's a stroke. And I just go stroke to stroke to stroke to stroke. And I'm just trying to make beautiful shapes and create forms. What anatomy book would you recommend for referencing? I talked about that a bit earlier in the stream, but Strength Training Anatomy by Frank Delaviere is my blanket recommendation, but it should be noted that that doesn't teach how to draw anatomy at all. It's just the best reference manual because it has more diagrams than any other anatomy book. Zed Deck says, Stoob, I got into art school starting in October. Congratulations, Zed, good for you. And just started writing a comic with a very dear writer friend. Nice, also going on a big, huge, long trip soon. I'm overwhelmed, give me wisdom, please. I don't know, those all sound like good things. What do you need wisdom for? Just sink into it, baby. Just accept that they're good and ride the dragon. Angel says that's kind of validating to hear because I've been trying to assemble a portfolio and it's pretty hard. Yeah, most people can't imagine how difficult it actually is. That's why so many artists have been working for years and they don't have a portfolio. We all know artists who have been drawing for 5 years and don't have a single piece they want to show you, you know? You got to be making pieces, making pieces. Yankee says, thanks for the advice. Also, do you know any good resources for perspective and environments? Framed Perspective by Marcos Mateo Mestre. There's 2 volumes, one on linear perspective and the other on the perspective of shadow construction and things like that. I think those are probably the best overall starting point for most artists, specifically because it's coming from someone who does like storyboarding work and comic work. So they're kind of geared a little bit more towards that as opposed to some of the older classic reference manuals, which are more geared towards landscape painters and things like that. Smashing Pinky says, Steven, have you ever tried making 2D animation when working on your character, gestures, character concept, etc.? I don't animate. I do not. Good Vibe says, how do you keep track of all your projects? Is there any advice you can give to keep track of different projects and not lose focus? Different projects? You just, between projects? I don't know, yeah, how you, like, do you mean just like, which one should I work on? Like, it's hard to do more than 3 things in a day, you know? So you just pick the one that's most urgent. Let me see if I have my, I changed computers, so I don't have it. But within a project, I just use spreadsheets. I use spreadsheets like this. I mean, any organizational structure is better than none, but this one is for if you were making a portfolio specifically. I would have a slightly different layout for a different kind of project, but basically you just boil things down to deliverables. So that's what you see on the left. You know, this is for a 16-page design portfolio. If you don't know how to lay out the 16 deliverables, a comparable. You just find somebody else's portfolio that you like. That's what I did for this one. I forget whose I was looking at. Ari Pan, maybe, I want to say. And I just said, all right, what do they have on the first page of their portfolio? It's a main character with backshot and actions. I write that. What's on the second page of their portfolio? It's the main character's final props with some detail callouts. I write that. So you just get a comparable. You lay that out. And then you put your process, not their process, you probably don't know their process, in rows across, right? So that's my process. I count having an idea as a process. So I'm in the car. When I do design, I'm usually looking for a hook on a lot of things. And a hook, I don't know, for me, I can't fake it. It just needs to come naturally. So for me, a part of the process is literally have an idea, like something that comes to you in the shower or in the car. Like, oh, it'd be cool if, you know, that frog was blue because I'm stupid or something like that. Then free sketchbooking, reference gathering, real sketch, resolve drawing, color thumbs, final. Bonus drawings, that's stuff like detail callouts, and then finally lay out the page. And then as you go, stuff that you have in process, you make it orange. When you finish an area, you make it green. And then this makes everything very visual. You just make it so your goal in life when you're on project is you just want to make every block green. And you hate the color red, you want to destroy red. Red is the enemy. You're just trying to grind through red. If you see a red block, all you want to do is eat it, pound it into the dust. And then when you make it all green, you have 1 beer. 1 to celebrate. And then you do it again. Next project, all red, you make them all green again. Why'd my music stop? Who done this? Jesus says, I love red. Jesus, how did you get back in this chat? I thought I banned you. Lord of Hosts, I could have swore I banned you from my chat. Lamb of God, if I really was so sure I banned you from this chat. Hi, Stephen. Would you ever consider drawing on magic mushrooms? I can't really draw under the influence of anything. I'm very distracted when I'm under the influence. It's like I can muscle through it if I have to, but I'm not the kind of person who being high adds anything to making art, you know? My maximum creative ability and thoughtfulness and driving all the horses at once and sort of orchestrating the whole thing is sober. You know, there's a lot I got to do in a picture. I need my faculties and my wits about me. That's not to say that that's not part of some people's process. You know, someone like Alex Gray, the use of psychedelics is, it seems, absolutely foundational to Alex's process. So there's ways to make it work, clearly. Imagine walking up to Steven in real life and calling him Stoob. I'd probably react like, yeah, that's my name. Steven, are you ready to look at goblin waifus on the 8th? If people are donating, sure. If people are supporting the fundraiser, I'll look at some goblin waifus. No doubt. Shawty says hi. Hello, Shawty. Let me look at my asset list here. Oh yeah, I need that freaking other guy. All right, let's do another document here. What's your favorite game, Steven Zapata art? Bloodborne is probably my favorite game of all time. I haven't been playing much lately. Been very busy. Elden Ring is the last game I really got super into. And I'm waiting for that DLC, baby. Ooh, I'm waiting for that DLC. Corey says, dropping in during my work break to do some figure studies. What you working on today, Steven? I am tearing through the asset list for the current project that I'm working on. Doing a lot of character development right now. This is stuff I've been doing over the past few days. Model sheets, expression sheets, things like that. Just figuring out the faces for all the characters that come up in this project. My asset list for this project is not a spreadsheet like the one I showed. It's just a boring Google Doc where I've listed every character in the order they come up. Guillermo says, hey, Steven, I appreciate you taking the time to answer questions here. I'm fucking trying. I'm trying. My question is, how can I enhance my skills in designing compelling motifs for my characters? I think what holds most people back is that they are drawing abstract characters. Their character is not for a real thing. That's fine once you're a master, but I really think that's the realm of the master. I think most people who are beginner or intermediate are really shooting themselves in the foot if they want to be character designers. It's crazy to not design characters that you understand front to back. So for most people, you should start basically with fan art. I think that you should start by designing characters for something that already exists, that is already a masterpiece. So like Harry Potter or something like that. Like the mental constraints that you have for drawing Harry, for example, from Harry Potter, that's what design is made of. That's the real deal. Just trying to draw cool abstract shapes and, well, this character's sexy, right? Like you're only gonna practice that, and that's not the job most of the time. When you're intermediate, then you can move beyond fan art. I still think that you should design stuff that is already made, but you should design stuff that doesn't have a strong visual touchstone yet, or transform something that already has a very strong visual touchstone. So if you were an intermediate, for example, trying to design Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian would be a good challenge. You know, there's no movie for it. You know, there's no strong visual, there's no iconic visual touchstone for it. And it's very sophisticated and very challenging, and it gives you constraints, and that is real design. I think the number one, if you really do that, and if you do that with characters and stuff that are already compelling, you will learn what it takes to make something deeply interesting. It is very, very difficult to do that when you are sort of trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and make a cool character for its own sake. Like I said, I think only master artists can do that reliably, and they don't need anybody's help. And most of us just aren't masters, right? So it's kind of crazy for beginners to start there. They're kind of working backwards, in my opinion. Ayub says, how do you build a life based on balancing your portfolio work, your personal project, working out, sleeping, eating, living, reading? Feel like I am either extremely concentrated on one thing or doing nothing. I don't think you can balance it. I don't think in the current era, in my opinion, it cannot be balanced. I think that instead you're gonna have to pick somewhere where you're gonna cut. You've got to pick somewhere where you're going to cut your efforts and just not be your best there, and accept that. And I think that that's what life is made of. I mean, the things that you do in life are valuable because you sacrificed other things for them. They're not they're not valuable because you did everything else too, you know? It's a painful thing to say, but I think that's the truth. So you need to pick what is the most important thing in your life right now. And yeah, you focus on that. And be willing to change, right? Because you might have made the wrong call. That happens too. But yeah, you've got to do it. And that puts you in difficult situations. Be willing to communicate with them, you know, or communicate about them. Like it often will strain relationships. Talk about it. Be willing to tell the people that you're in relationship with, like just be straight with them. Like, this is a hard time for me. I think I've got to sacrifice A, B, C, D. And I might need you to support me there, you know? I don't think it can be balanced. Not that huge long list, you know? Not the list of God in our current time, everything that you're supposed to be doing. That list has gotten too long thanks to the freaking internet. Can you work a full-time job and go pro as an artist? Yeah. Lots of people have done it. Steven, any tips for balancing commissions and personal work? My personal work always takes a back seat. I don't know about commissions specifically, but I mean, just in general, you should always be doing some personal work. Just prioritize it. Because if you get too bored, you'll burn out on everything. So just consider the personal work sort of a personal maintenance, you know? Something that always worked for me is do it first, if you can at all. So say when you sit down to work that before you do your commissions, you're gonna give yourself the first half hour of your sitting. You'll do your own stuff. And then you'll switch to your commissions. Like work tends to expand to fill the time allotted for it. There's a name for that law, but I forget what it is. So if you just squeeze your work in that first half hour, you'll still get everything done in the next 5, you know? You just gotta trust yourself a little bit. James! Hi, James. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well too, my friend. What's up? Scott Eden's pretty good too. Yeah, he is. I've never taken any of his like courses. Does he have a book? I don't know. But he's a well-respected anatomy teacher. I bet he is very good. I've used his, he's got a little app that he made a long time ago. That's the Houdon Écorché as a 3D model. I still have that on my iPad. I use that every now and then. James says, all is good on my end, just drawing as per usual. I love it. What are you drawing lately, James? I gotta have you on the stream sometime soon to catch up. I would do it now, but I've already been live for 2 hours, so I'm gonna be getting off relatively soon. Lunchtime calls. Do you give your opinion on art accounts? Not really. I have opinions on art accounts, of course, but I don't think it's healthy on the internet to just run around critting people's art willy-nilly. I think that it can be fun and funny, but I think it does more harm than good in the long run. Because if I were to go to somebody, if I was just gonna run around and give people crits and, you know, unsolicited notes and things like that, it's just like, people will always take that as being about them. You know, even if they're laughing along, if I say, oh, why'd they do that? The audience they may laugh at it or think that's interesting, but then they will inevitably be like, oh, I shouldn't do that. And then slowly you just start limiting what people are willing to do and contributing to art problems. So I don't like doing that. Put a beer in me though, not on camera. I'll do nothing but talk shit. Just talk shit for hours. But that's how you're supposed to do it. You talk shop in an environment you can control with people who know what you mean. You don't go blasting it out to everybody and influencing them. I think that's stupid. I reserve the right to change my mind. James says, I would love to join. I just wrapped up Witcher and I've got my first shot directing. Oh, fuck yeah. It's an anime commercial for Lenovo. That's awesome, dude. Very cyberpunk, kind of based off of Neuromancer. Oh my God, that's gonna be awesome. Yeah, we gotta have you on. You gotta fill people in. Good for you, man. That's great. Dude, Lenovo's gonna get something awesome. Have you ever heard of the Dave School in Orlando, Florida? I have not. Hello, Steven. Do you by any chance know of a good resource for medieval stuff? References like armor, normal folks' clothing in villages or city. For armor, I don't know much about for normal folks' clothes. I haven't really had to do much of that. But for armor, the Osprey books, Osprey's a publisher. They publish a bunch of like military history illustrated books. Those are really good. You can buy them as PDFs online. You don't have to order the physical books. Let me pull it up. Sorry, the page is taking a minute to load. So this is Osprey Publishing's website. As you can see, War of the Roses, Anglo-Saxon Kings and Warlords, Agincourt. They've got all these illustrated little books, and I think these are reasonably historically accurate. So these are a good resource for stuff like that. For armor, there's a couple really good Pinterest boards made by like professional armorers. I think Knight Errant, the YouTuber, has a Pinterest board that has a lot of, he claims, correct historical armor. So this is Knight Errant's Pinterest. Ian Laspina, I guess is his real name. There's the username, Knight, K-N-Y-G-H-T, Errant. He also has a YouTube channel that has a lot of very useful explanations of how armor actually works. But he's been compiling tons of really good references on the medieval period on this Pinterest board for a long time. I have this one bookmarked, so whenever I have a question about how armor is shaped or something like that, I'll pop in here and see if there's not some on the nose good reference. He's got other stuff too. Food, medieval feasting, food and drink, tapestries. Very nice. Who this? Whoa, 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 whoa. Is that a goat or a cat? The fuck? Magnus Marshall says, hey, first time catching a stream in a while. Good to see you. Good to see you too. Any thoughts on artists who have zero social media presence? Do you personally know any? Yeah, they exist. I call them studio dogs. Woof woof. Grrr. Why'd I do that? I hate that I did that. Yeah, there's lots of people who are just some of the best artists in the world, and they just got jobs. They live inside of studios. They don't post. And they're just amazing. Yeah. You'll only ever find them if like the studios that they're working for like post a bunch of their art or something like that. Like one of my, I consider him a mentor, but really he's a friend of mine. I got to work with him for a long time. He's a teacher at Art Center, but Michael Chaffee, who helped design the DeLorean for Back to the Future, he has made, you'd be lucky to make a 10th the amount of art that Michael has made in his life. But you search him, none of his art comes up. He only exists online because people put him in documentaries about Back to the Future and stuff like that, and that's what you see here. And occasionally you'll see some of his drawings for stuff from Back to the Future. So you see here, early concept art for the Mr. Fusion by Michael Chaffee. You don't find any of his other stuff online really, and he does tons and tons of just amazing world-class work. So yeah, there's tons of artists that aren't online. They live inside studios. It's a way to be. It is a way to be. Glass Memory says, Steven, I agree with you about making fan art from existing stuff. Currently reading the book, The Never-Ending Story, with my son. And there's some wild ideas in there that never showed up on film. Yeah, I think that's the way to go for most people. You need to set a benchmark in your head for what is compelling and what needs to be done with a character to sort of make them complete. And it's not a job that's ever done, you know? But if you've never engaged with that, I think you really should. Shady on Fire says, hey, Steven, thanks for the session. I was about to punch my screen, and now I ended up with fine-ass sketches after 30 minutes drawing along. Happy to help. Happy to help, Shady. It's important to help. And if I can help by just sitting here drawing, how lucky am I? Does Ian McCaig have any socials? I don't know. Maybe. Yo, Steven, any tips for starting your online presence? I've just started my journey as an artist and it feels a little bit intimidating knowing I need to create all these accounts on Twitter, Insta. You don't need to create all of them. You can just start with one and focus on that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Experiment, you know, because all the different platforms have different limitations and things that they focus on. So try them, you know, don't feel super committed to one right off the bat. But give them a shot, see which one aligns more with the kind of work that you do, and then feel free to cut the rest, I would say. You know, some people just like it. They like running all the accounts and having, you know, their reach everywhere. But if you find it annoying, it's like, you can just be on Twitter. You can just be on Instagram. There's nothing in the rule book saying you got to be on all of them. James Ellis says, sorry for repeating myself, but when making character turnarounds for 3D modelers, should I put more emphasis on rendering the character or to keep the line work? Usually you only need to render one view, and then it's pretty acceptable to just do line work for like the side view, back view, things like that. And the rendering is, it's more about material indication. That's why you really only need to render one. It's like the modelers don't need you to render it so that it looks fucking awesome and so that you can show off how badass you are at rendering. You just need to explain the materials. So what's shinier than what's dirtier than what's less shiny, you know, more matte than something else. Once you've indicated that, that's usually enough of think in their language, right? When they're setting up the materials, the main things they need to know are, is this thing distressed or not distressed? What's the diffuse color? What's the specular color? You know, does it have any special effect? Like, is it pearlescent, or, you know, if it's metallic, you know, does it color the light source on the specular, or things like that. Try to think the way they need to think to do their job. As long as you've given as long as you've given them all that information, you don't need to push the render any farther than that. And if there's no new problems like that on the back view, there's really no reason to render it. Rendering also, you know, explains the shape of things. You know, if you have some very complicated thing that the line work doesn't,
you know, the line work for something, let's say this is the top view of something, right? It's like, what is that? That's the top view of this thing. But if we look at it in plan, not in plan, in 3/4 view, that might be the actual shape of that thing. It might have this blister right in the middle. So that's where you need rendering in this other view. You need to use values to explain the blister, right? That's the magic of rendering. So as long as you don't have any moments like that, confusions like that, where the line work doesn't explain the important part of the form, you could skip it on the back view, stuff like that. Is this frozen? Kim Dow says, good afternoon from Brazil. Good afternoon from New York. I love the hair. Damn it. People either love it or they're horribly offended by it. I've thought about removing myself from most social media and being an artist in the shadows. Recently deleted Facebook. Nothing wrong with that. I think more and more people will start going that way. I think with the way the internet is these days, I think for people who aren't expressly trying to make a career out of it, I think there's a lot of good reasons, a strong case to be made for not having your art online and just being in your local community. Just have real human beings that you share your art with and make art together and things like that. Luke McFast says, who is Jack Saul? Who is he? But who is Jack Saul? Hi, Stephen. I found you through Proco a long time ago. I am a young artist in the third world country, and I was offered a job by the best animation studio in the country. Well, that's great. Can I make it to foreign and work? I mean, make it to another country and work? I mean, if you have experience working for the best animation studio in the country, I mean, that's got to be a step in the right direction, right? I mean, go for it. Great skills can take you great places. But good for you, Talal. I'm happy to hear that you got a great job offer. That's awesome. Angel says Reddit and Tumblr are pretty good for fan artists because it's more niched. That makes sense to me. Twitter is good for engagement if you can build a personality and post a lot of jokes, opinions. If you can stand Twitter, I'm sure that's true. It's not for me. You know, everybody's got different temperaments. I never got Twitter personally. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. It doesn't feel like the real world to me. The stuff that I see happening on Twitter, I'm like, this is nowhere else. This doesn't manifest in reality. A lot of people would disagree with me, and I get it. I get it. I get that. I'm just like, Jesus. Just a very weird place. I don't know, it strikes me as a very weird place to post art too. It feels like decorating a foxhole or something like that. It's chaos over there. It's like people taking a break from the thing that makes them angriest in life to be like, oh, what a pretty picture. All right, back to being unbelievably mad. Lots of negative affect. Steven, are there any downsides to being such a sexy art boy? Is the power burdensome? It is burdensome. Heavy is the head that wears the sexy crown. It's just the truth, Jay. Don't know what to say. Wesley says, what's up, Steven? Just to say that I just saw your short. The fluidity of your drawing skills transfers really nicely to your dancing skills. Are there any great motivational videos out there you'd recommend? I was using Shia LaBeouf's Stop Giving Up videos, but needed some new tough motivational content. I don't know. I don't get motivated by traditional motivation content. Every now and then it hits the right button, but it'll be like, you know, just once. It'll stick for a day. But traditional motivation stuff doesn't work for me. I don't know, when I need to get my head right, I usually listen to something like Alan Watts or something like that. I find that makes me more inclined to just work peacefully than traditional motivational content. Just like, you know, traditional motivational content is just like buff dudes telling me to go for a run, which is boring. Or, well, running's not, but pretending that that's the solution is silly and boring. Or, I don't know, just people who happen to have a good business thinking that that makes their opinions ultra relevant, gives them carte blanche to advise people on everything else. Like, wow. Your rubber band business really qualifies you for everything you're grandstanding on, huh? Cool. Steven, you're from New York. Are you aware of the Chris Gethard show? I am not. Umi says, hi, do you know of any resources or places where we can see professionals' early concept art? I think it'd be really useful to learn from, but struggle finding anything other than full renders. Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff has been washed out. You can try using the Wayback Machine, like find a concept artist who was working back in the 80s or 90s or something like that, and use the Wayback Machine and see what you can dig up of their early websites. I know you can Wayback Machine Craig Mullen's website, Goodbrush, pretty far. And a lot of the images are broken, but some of them are not. You can see some of them. Craig's a bad example though, because he speed ran everything that was possible with digital art before the rest of us even knew what the hell it was. So a lot of the stuff that is on his really early website is still, it would be world class today. So he's a bad example, but you can pick another artist and try to Wayback Machine their website and see if you can find some stuff. Hello, Trash and Can. Tips for making a professional career from art, mostly traditional mediums, but also digital. Depends what kind of career you want. If you're traditional, I would try to get representation. Like if you want to do fine art, I would try to get representation early. Just don't be desperate, you know, don't wind up with someone predatory. You know, get some work in galleries, get an agent if you can. It's just so, it's really hard to make generalizations about stuff like that because just everybody's path is so individual. I mean, there's people with fine art careers who like just we'll never hear about them. You know, they're not really on social media in a big way. They just have a good gallery and a good rep and they sell enough, you know, they're in the right market. But it's like you can't give that advice in a general way, right? Because you may be the kind of artist who you want to make work that isn't really super targeted at a market, you know, you want to make more personal stuff and it's just not as salable as like, you know, stuff that would look really nice in a beach house, you know, that's really salable, you know, you might not want to make stuff like that. So I can't really give you the same advice that would have worked for that person who makes the stuff that looks really good in a beach house, you know? How much do you know Photoshop? Do you use filters once in a while to get certain effects? How much do I know Photoshop? I would place my level at undisputed master. I mean, I'm nasty at Photoshop. I'm a dog in there. I mean, there's nothing I can't do. I know the right way to do it, and I know all the wrong ways to do anything that I need to do in Photoshop. I got workarounds, tricks, shortcuts, crazy things I never use when drawing. I learned all that stuff back when most of my job was doing like photoreal renders. You know, the stuff that Photoshop is really good at. Compositing things, handling huge files, like that stuff makes you use everything in Photoshop. Channels, paths, adjustment layers, huge layer stacks. I'm just, I don't know, best in the world. #1. Judo grip on that. Absolutely masterful with Photoshop. And I use none of it when drawing. No, I never use any of this stuff. The only filter I'll ever use is in like a real process. The only filter that I'll use is dust and scratches, and that's like I'd only use it in the middle, like if I'm doing a really rough painting of something. So, I'm slugging things in. I'm using the brush real sloppy. I'm exaggerating it for effect here. No nipples, because YouTube will get mad. So if I have a rough-in of something that's like really mushy like that with a lot of high contrast brushwork, actually even this will probably need a little more info. Sometimes as an intermediary step, I'll run dust and scratches on something like this. Let me merge this because it works better when it's on a flat layer. And that'll sort of knock back a lot of the unnecessary noise and just give me like the basic shapes of what I put down. And what I like about dust and scratches is that it preserves edges. So it keeps what's soft and it keeps what's hard, but it just kind of compresses them closer to each other. So for me, it's much better than a Gaussian blur. But I would never use that as the final. I'd use that to knock back a lot of my work, kind of like if I was, doing an oil painting, scraping it down with a palette knife a bit, just like lightly flaking it, or pulling the palette knife over a whole area, just like a weird, fuzzy sort of mushing together of everything. And then I'd paint over this. What the? How often do you think about drawing during the day? It is probably the #1 thing I think about. By volume, it is probably the thing I think about the most every day. Dang, I'm getting really hungry. I gotta wrap up here. Yeah, we've been, dang, time flies. I said a while ago that it was 2 hours. Now we're coming up on 2:45. Let's start wrapping up here because I gotta get some eats. Steven can tell us to go for a jog. Is there something to be said for trying your whole life to do something professionally and never getting to, but doing it anyway? I mean, if you put in that amount of effort, I mean, it's still worth it on its own, at least I think. I don't know. Everybody has different value systems, but if it was maybe it'd be different if it was different things, but something like art, drawing, things like that, most people find those things satisfying on their own. So the time spent there is time well spent, probably. Might be different if you spent your whole life trying to be an investment banker, you know, which maybe is really only about the career for you. It's not really the kind of thing that is satisfying to be done just for fun. You spent your whole life trying to do that and then never did it. That might be different. Thank you for answering, and sorry if this is a question you get all the time, but can we know what brush you're using? I don't know what brush I'm using. Some random brush from some brush pack. It has a Japanese name. I have no idea. But you could do all of this with the round brush. I mean, that's basically indistinguishable from just the round brush with no opacity on it. Deadline Painting says, hello from Austin, Texas. Hello from New York. Tumas says, hey, Steven, any straight to color tips? It's when you go straight to color, you are implying everything all at once. You're implying drawing, value structure, which means light, everything. So it's a very difficult thing to do. So just go slow and be patient and accept mistakes and redoing things and things like that. It's very, very complicated to go straight to color. But at the same time, don't be afraid. If you're interested in working that way, do it. Do it all the time, you know? Noodles Live says, is there any way you can critique my art on my community post? I'm sorry, I don't really have time to crit people's art outside of very particular contexts. People in my course, during Nightshade All Night this Thursday, I'll give some comments on as many people's art as I can. I don't know how many people are gonna do it, so, you know, it could get a little crazy, but, you know, I'll just be pulling up people's work, giving a reaction. We'll see. Goodbye, Renola. Goodbye, Boxer Wing. Steven, my art teacher teared in pieces my artwork. Is he insane and can I punch him? Don't punch him, but he is insane. I hope that didn't actually happen. I thought we'd all move past that. What time Thursday? 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Steven, some questions I have for the Nightshade. Should I comment them on the live stream announcement video? I haven't posted instructions yet, so I'll put instructions in the description soon. because whatever questions you have, we haven't decided on the final format yet. Me and Joe are gonna go over that tomorrow. So yeah, I probably can't answer them yet. But yeah, we'll pin those down. I don't know if we're gonna do an email that people send their stuff to. I don't know if we'll make a Discord. We're gonna evaluate the options tomorrow. It'll probably be an email. Yeah, we still haven't solidified the format. That's why we're running the test tomorrow. And we'll go live. We'll try to go live tomorrow a bit to test the setup. If you have technical questions about Nightshade, I am not the right guy for that. I can't answer technical questions about Nightshade. I'm not a machine learning person. What's your dream, Stevie? I'm living a lot of my dream right now. I have a lot of things I would like to do, but I don't keep a hard vision of what I want my life to look like in mind, because I think that life changes too much. I know that I always want to be creative, so I have that as a North Star, but I plan to duck and weave as much as is necessary to keep that going. I like helping people. I have dreams of being able to help people more and in different ways, but they require a lot of different kinds of resources and things like that, so I'm working on that. But yeah, a lot of the basis, a lot of the foundations of my life are very solid right now, I feel like. Yeah, I just want to continue to be helpful for the evil raven perched in my heart called drawing. I want to continue to evangelize and make drawing more powerful in the world. And I have different ways I wish I could do that, and I will keep working towards them. I went to a teacher, and the first day he asked me if I wanted to be slapped. Not joking. It was funny as fuck. It's a lot, dude. Too many teachers are on power trips, man. They're just doing it for the completely wrong reasons. If any teacher just acts weird with you like that, I would say just walk the fuck away. There's so many teachers who are doing it because they've you know, they're in the world too, and they've seen how much influence and power teachers can have over their students, and they're trying to get that, and they're sort of weeding people out at the start, like, how much bullshit are they gonna let me get away with? I hate to say it, but there is a lot of people just consciously doing that. And yeah, I think if you have a weird interaction like that early on with a teacher, just walk the fuck away, because it's only gonna get worse. There are a lot of weirdos out there. All right, everybody. I'm gonna go have some lunch. Thank you so much for being here. And unless something goes wrong with the setup tomorrow, if you're around tomorrow, I will go live at some point tomorrow with Joe, and we'll test the setup for Nightshade all night. Nothing complicated. We might ask a couple people to send us stuff. I'll Nightshade them. I've already tested that I can do it while stream is running and all that, but I just want to look for anything that we didn't expect. It's mostly to test the audio setup, because I want Joe to be able to talk too. So we got to test the 2-mic setup. But yeah, it shouldn't be anything complicated. But yeah, I will see if you're around. I will see you then. And take care, everybody, and happy drawing. And yeah, I hope everything goes great for you today. Goodbye, Daryl. Goodbye, Angel. Goodbye, ZX. Goodbye, Magnus Marshall. Goodbye, Boxer Wing 1970. Adam Gerardolia. Arcanarch Dome Dome. The Carnage Chaos Teras Batroni. And who could forget Morgan Constrictors. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.